Welcome. We're going to work on the hips. How many times have you been told that your hip flexors are tight? You stretch them. It feels good when we stretch them. I fully agree it feels good when we stretch them. However, we need muscles to be functional so that they know how to relax. So that if you're sitting, those muscles don't need to be gripping and tight. They can be functional because you're sitting upright. And then when you go to do something else, they can relax. Now, in order to do that, we are going to blend a stretch in with that functional movement of the hip flexor. In order to do that, you're going to need two things. One is a resistance band. Now, I've got these little round resistance bands, which are perfect, but if you don't have that, you can use other things, okay? If you have those big pieces of resistance band, just tie a knot in it so that it's about this shape, okay? This distance. And that's like from my wrist to my elbow kind of circle, all right? You can use other things. Like I remember back during COVID, we were saying if you have a pair of pantyhose, grab a pair of pantyhose, tie a knot, use that as something stretchy. You're also going to need a big black, well, you don't really need a big black block, but you need some sort of cushiony yoga block or, what is it? A prop, right? To support your leg. Now, we're going to start with the stretch because that's one thing that we kind of recognize and know how to do. And if you've been in any other of my videos or any of my classes, you know that I want you to move from a place of relaxation, a place of ease. If we're pushing this, if you already have those tight hip flexors and you go to do the hip flexor pull that we're going to do, it's not horrible. You can do it, totally. But when we stretch first, there can be a little extra added bonus of that awareness that happens with it. So this is just going to go off to the side for a moment. I'm going to use this big black block, okay? If you don't have one, totally fine, but I'm going to use mine. You can put something under your leg so that you have a little bit of height and that you can balance your shin on, all right? And something that cushions your knee. Because if you're doing this on hardwood floor, your knee joint is not going to be very happy about it. Now, I'm going to come up here and I may come out of the screen a little bit, but here we go. So my foot is off the end of the block. My right foot comes forward. Now, pretty obvious, hip flexor stretch, right? We're hanging out right here. Now, I want this to be a little bit more engaged. So when we get into this little bit of hip flexor stretch, I want you to take that back foot, press it down into the block. So you're actually engaging, pressing down through your shin, and you're going to feel a little bit more of a pull. Now here's the tricky part. I want this right hip, and I'm going to switch legs in a moment so you can see this, but you can see this back leg first, right? Obvious hip flexor stretch. Now the trick is, I'm just going to switch legs to show you. When you do this, yes, that back leg has a hip flexor stretch, but your front hip, I want this hip to sink. All right, this front leg is going to want to push. It's going to want to brace you. I want this hip to sink. Back leg is engaged, pressing through that back foot. You're sinking down into this hip. This leg is going to try and do some work. You take your hands, you push this knee forward a little bit. So your arms take the support, not the leg. Okay, you feel a bit of release. See if you can hold it. Can't hold it? Take your hands to your knee again. Take the hands away. See if you can release into this hip. Doesn't want to do it? Try it again. Sometimes you'll get this pushback. All right? All the while, you are breathing. Now, that was a short stretch. You can hang out there for 15 breaths or so. I want you to play with it. You don't need to stay there for 5 minutes. But what I want you to do is notice the engagement of that back leg, the lengthening that happens through the hip of that back leg, but also the release in the front hip. Right? I had that leg that was forward. You want to release down into that front hip. All right, so that's the stretch part. I'm going to take the block away, put it back here. And now for the rubber band, resistance band. I'm going to put this around both of my feet and then I lay down. Now, as you do this exercise, very important, there is a nice little arch in your lower back. Okay, you can see how my hands fit underneath my lower back. When you pull your knee in, there is a tendency that the lower back flattens like this, okay? No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to isolate this hip flexor. So if you want, you can put your hands under your lower back. Do not squish your fingers. You pull that band in. You extend it back out. Now, if you want, if you're new to this, you can alternate one leg to the other leg, but you're pulling in. Okay, you can notice how my feet stay active. Otherwise, the band would fall off my toes. This is also a good exercise for your knee joints. Okay, you can do the other leg. Now you can start alternating one side at a time. If that starts getting comfortable, you can do 3 at a time on each side. If that starts getting comfortable, just continue building up from there. Okay, if it gets really easy and you can do like 20 of these, make that band more challenging. Or there's another way to make it a little more challenging. The knee comes out to the side in a Frogger position. Okay, that just isolates that hip flexor a tiny little bit differently. And I will say, when you do this exercise, if you hear and feel your hip kind of popping, that's normal. Okay, there's lots of ligaments around the hip socket. There's lots of connective tissue around that hip socket. As long as it's not causing sharp stabbing pain or inflammation, it's fine. All right, play with those. Alternate back and forth. Now that we did one stretch, one hip flexor pull, do it one more time. Build that awareness and give those hip flexors, those deep psoas muscles, the experience of what it feels to lengthen, what it feels to release, and what it feels like to work. The reason we keep the lumbar spine in that neutral position is that's what kind of gives the hip flexor that isolation. When your lower back flattens into the floor while you pull your knee in, the rest of the abdominal muscles, they're helping. It's teamwork, and that's what it should be in daily life. But when we isolate it, I want you to notice a little bit of a difference, okay? It does also help with back pain as well because you're stabilizing, strengthening the lower back from the inside. Those hip flexor muscles do connect to the inside of those vertebrae. All right, play with that. Be curious about your movement. Notice what it feels like to do the stretch, then do the release, then do the work. If you have any questions, again, comment below, message me. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.